kick up the PowerPoint. All right. Okay, hope you guys can see it. Today, the topic is BYD. As usual, please note that this is a session that is brought on to you guys by myself. And things that I'm going to share is based on my own research and my own opinion. And of course, these are not investment advice or recommendation, and definitely not the view of my company, my employer, iFast Global Market, right? So do bear that in mind. And with that spirit, thank you so much for joining me in my number 33 Premium Club webinar. And you can find out more about what I tend to present through my website, learnwithstanley.com. And every 2 weeks, I will be presenting a webinar mostly about stock investment or ETF investment, talking about investment philosophy and also some of the key strategy that I have used over the years that has worked well for me. Typically, most of it will be based on my own personal experience and research, and something that I wanted to open up uh, what I've learned over the past 16, 17 years to share with you guys along the way. What are the mistakes that I make, especially so that you guys would not make the same mistake as me, right? I work for iFast Global Market, and if you have not heard of iFast Global Market, it's basically a wealth platform that allows you to gain access to all different kinds of asset classes, be it your unit trust, be it your bonds, managed account that our internal team will manage for you guys. Of course, stocks and ETF as well. And we are one of the few providers for managing, linking up with your EPF as well. So if you want to invest your EPF funds, we are one of the key providers that allows you to gain access to invest through that as well. For me personally, if this is actually the first time you're joining me, thank you. And I have been investing in the stock market for close to 17, 18 years up to now. I started getting excited about the market in the 2007 financial bubble. And I learned a lot since then. And now, more or less, my philosophy has matured, and I focus on these four key things when it comes to looking for the next investment, and also helping my clients invest using these key fundamentals, which is I focus a lot on the long-term trends and long-term opportunity. And instead of chasing after the top and riskiest return that we can find, I actually flip on the flip it on the other side and focus on risk management. Right? What is the return that we can get at the lowest possible risk that we can manage? That's something that I tend to always focus when it comes to building up a portfolio. But that also means that I try not to time the market. Right? I don't try to time the market, meaning that I ride through the market, and hopefully those companies or those funds that I buy are of higher quality, they will outperform over time. This means that we have to remain very, very calm, especially in today's time where market volatility is actually increasing with the speed of information being traveled. It can lead to market hysteria and market panic very, very fast. And so the key is actually how to maintain that calm during the market crisis and volatility, and so that we can truly build our wealth over the long term. And my strategy, I have always think of it as, how do I build something what I call an everlasting portfolio? So something that I can use the same strategy starting from a small amount, but that strategy can continue to be upheld as my wealth grow, as my portfolio grow, and I can still use this even if I'm managing millions of dollars in the future, right? So I put my money where my mouth is, and ETF is a component that I truly believe in the power to use it as a tool to build very effective portfolio. And I have a sample ETF portfolio that I built within uh, my iFast account, and this is something that I share with my clients as well to showcase to them how you can go about, even if you want to build it just by yourself without my help, it is still possible, right? Okay. But um, if you it, if you are someone that you feel that it's better if you want to speak with me one on one to look at how I can improve the efficiency of your portfolio and how I can help you manage and build something that is a strategy that is more long lasting, definitely feel free to reach out to me through either my WhatsApp. I have both my number, my Singapore number and my Malaysian number here, or just through my contact list is all listed in learnwithstanley.com. Or you can scan this QR code for the Google form for me to reach out to you, right? Oops, I didn't update this one, but never mind. Today, we're going to talk about BYD. And in fact, BYD, right, is actually not that old of a company. It is started in 1995 by these two person, Wang Chuanfu and Liu Xiangyang. So the key person today, if you search BYD, typically you will hear and see about this person, Wang Chuanfu, and he is the brainchild of BYD, and he is the you can say key mastermind, and he's a very interesting person. And I feel that a lot of the Chinese entrepreneur, when you research and dig into their history, I really feel that many of them, their story can actually become a, a movie, and it's so inspiring. Some of them, and it is quite unbelievable what they went through to create the company that they created, to reach the status and to reach the life that they are now from the beginning, right? Because Wan Chuanfu is someone that grew up in poverty, and at a very young age, he was orphaned. His father passed away when he was quite young, and then a few years later, his mom also passed away after taking on the breadwinner responsibility, right? And she also passed away. So at that time, he was still in middle school, um, and he was a middle child as well. He was actually thinking that he should drop out of school and start working to support. He still have a few younger siblings as well. But fortunately, his elder brother, who by the time was already 18, 19 years old, forced him to go back to school. And his brother and his sister-in-law at the time continue to support him, even though they are in impoverished condition as well. So Wang Chuanfu stayed in school, and he went to university to study chemistry methodology. After he graduated, he got a government job in a SOE to in the battery field, right, in the battery industry, and he became the first person in his family to graduate and found a stable and reputable job. Kind of the success story of the family who sacrificed themselves so that he can succeed. But only after working, I think 2 years or 3 years inside the company, he realized that he saw opportunity in the battery industry. And at that time, the main battery manufacturer is Sanyo in Japan, and Japan was in the midst of trying to phase out the main battery the main type of battery that is available during that period, which is the nickel cobalt type of battery, due to environmental concern. So they are trying to phase out that type of battery and researching more and more into lithium battery. And Wan Chuanfu saw the opportunity that there will be a gap in the market where a player like him in China would be able to take the place on this battery. So although he has went through poverty and he just found a stable government job, uh, he still wanted to pursue this route of entrepreneurship. But the problem is he has no money, right? And he has no money and he couldn't find any investors. And so he struggled until he find his cousin, Liu Xiangyang, who was quite a successful banker from Bank of China, who supported him. Right, Liu Xiangyang came out with basically he's the finance guy lah. He came out to invest a few million into his idea to start battery production. I would say that they struggle for quite some time, but he uses a playbook that he continuously reuse over and over again, even after he go into the automotive industry as well, which is the copycat model, right? He basically took what all the batteries that is available in the market, and he tried to reverse engineer it so that he can come up with a viable product. And it took a while, but he was successful in producing a reasonable, well produced battery. And he did it at a much, much cheaper cost because at the time, sorry, this is a little bit of long-winded way, but I want to spend a little more time on understanding just what a character Wang Chuanfu is. He After he reverse engineered the product, uh, he did it at a much lower cost, and he did it also with capital constraint. Right, he doesn't have so much funds to start the automation production line. Yeah, because even by 1995, at the time, most of the battery production was already automated, and he wasn't able to have the money to invest in automated uh, production line. But what he found out is because at the time China has abundance of cheap labor, that he just used a complete manual process with large amount of workers. He was still able to create this process and do it at a much cheaper price because labor was very cheap at the time. And so that's how he got started with a non-automated production of batteries. And now once he got the ready battery, he need to sell it. But the problem is battery, you need to sell it to the OEMs. You need to sell it to the main brand owners that will use your product. And for someone that's so new, he was not able to penetrate the product. But luckily, he found a great salesperson called Stella Lee, and she helped him broke through the market, especially with major mobile phone manufacturer like Motorola and Nokia at the time. And basically, they built their fortune from there. Okay. Right. At their era, this is the phone in the 90s. And basically, that is what they produce. Then came the 1997 Asian financial crisis. And this is a turning point, right? We might assume that it's going to be bad news for him, but it's actually a blessing in disguise, because the entire market was in panic, and they become more cost conscious. And now his cheaper alternative seems to be a more viable option for manufacturers, and they are more open to trying out new products at the time. So they continue to ride the market through for the next few years until the year 2002. And this is the phone in the year 2002. Uh, and they reach a point where they become the number two nickel cobalt battery producer in the world, just shy of the number one player, Sanyo. Then with that success. They launched into their IPO in 2002. I think they raised about 1.6 billion Hong Kong dollars, 1.6 billion Hong Kong dollars. But almost right after uh, he they done the IPO, uh, you can call it their first major scandal because after that, Wang Chanfu went out in 2003 to buy a defunct automotive company called Xi'an Qingchuan Auto. Right? It's a company that has collaboration with Suzuki, building a very, very small K car, and it wasn't doing well and it was almost bankrupt. And he bought this almost bankrupt company for 260 plus million Hong Kong dollars. So that's almost close to 20% of the IPO proceed. And the problem is during the IPO prospectus, there was no mention that the use of fund, this will be the use of funds, right? There was no mention that he was going to enter the automotive market. There was no mention that he was going to use it for M&A. So it goes against the prospectus requirement at the time. And investor doesn't like it, right? Investor doesn't like it. People is buying the company because of his potential as a battery manufacturer and not for him to venture into the automotive industry. But he did it anyway. And this is the product that they started producing, right? Um, it didn't do very well. It didn't do very well, and so at the time, they know nothing about automotive manufacturing. So what they do is they copy again the playbook of how they succeed in the battery line, right? Copy, copy, copy. And first, they need to have a new logo, and this is the logo that they come up with. I'm not sure if it reminds you of another brand, right? But uh, after being criticized for that logo for a while, a few years, they started to change their logo to this, which they use for quite some time, and eerily quite similar to another major car manufacturer logo as well, right? And only recently, when they have become the de facto EV brands that we know now, BYD as, right? They changed this logo, but interestingly, the other company also changed their logo at the time, right? So these are all jokes aside, but the main part is they need to create a viable product, and they was not able to do it. They experiment for a few years. They were they they basically struggled and unable to create a reliable vehicle for the public, and they never really took off uh, until they launched this BYD F3. I'm not sure if you have seen this vehicle somewhere because I remember that I once owned this vehicle as well, right? It looks very, very similar to the famous Toyota Corolla. And so much so that many of the components and parts that is used in BYD F3 is actually interchangeable with the Toyota Corolla. And they have been uh, not blamed, but they have been accused and mocked for being a copycat brand since then, since 2003, all the way until during COVID period. So for almost 20 years, has been their brand image as an automotive player, just a China knockoff uh, company. And but the fact remain they are able to sell the car because at the time, uh, they are able to reduce the price. Say a Toyota Corolla in China might be maybe 200,000 yuan, and the same BYD F3 will be selling at 100,000 yuan. So regardless of what people want to mock them as, they found a solution to be able to create a product that people want. And they have done it just uh, smart enough that none of the major automotive manufacturer was able to sue them for copyright infringement, right? And since then, uh, they have used this strategy to continuously grow their business very, very significantly. But they have also caused uh, a lot of challenges along the way, especially during the global financial crisis. They overexpanded. They overexpanded and they was flooding the market. And at that time, they also wanted to push more and more into the EV space, even when the electric vehicle technology wasn't that matured yet. So they wanted to phase out all their gasoline cars and started to push a lot of their uh, electric drive vehicles, even at the time like 2008, 2009. They met with a lot of backslash from their dealers and also the public and ridicule for their poor quality and poor uh, reliability. And then came 2008, a boost of confidence is when Warren Buffett, through Berkshire Hathaway, invested close to 300 million US dollar for a 10% stake in BYD. That boosted their image slightly and also give them the ability to continue in their program and pursuit of their vision of becoming an electric vehicle manufacturer, right? So through that, they weather through the storm. They are able to restructure their management around 2010. Then around 2012, they started supplying into the public transport space, right? By building electric taxis and buses and gaining more prominence in the electric vehicle space. And what really uh, changed their image, right? Because even up to then, they are still seen as just a copycat version of a more reliable automotive company. But by 2000 and uh, but during COVID period, they were able to reinvent the battery system in the electric vehicle space. And they designed something that is completely different from what the market has been using. Even you can say innovative players like Tesla and most of his battery competitors were like Panasonic or CATL was not able to create such a different battery package, which is the famous BYD Blade battery. So this is the Blade battery, and when you look at it, it might not look very different, but in fact, the entire design is different because for a typical EV battery pack, even when we see it as just a block, but within it, interestingly, they are actually just our almost similar to our AA size battery. So just stacked together into a one whole big block. So that's actually how most electric vehicle battery is within the package. But you can assume you can see the issue which because of a cylindrical material, there will be a lot of unutilized space, and also it creates safety issues where we have seen so many news where batteries can lead to explosion of the vehicle during a crash. And so when BYD created this battery, they also have a huge marketing campaign to promote it as well. And it not only has more energy per pack of volume. So they're much more powerful, much more reliable. They're also much more safer. And when you search YouTube, right, when you see the needle test of battery, you can see BYD has tested their blade battery when they test the conventional EV battery, where through the needle test, and the conventional battery basically exploded after the needle penetrate the battery. But the BYD blade battery basically take it without any issue and without any significant increase in temperature of the battery as well. So with this technology, they basically put BYD back into the map of being a very, very serious and high tech EV player. And so much so that they have separate out this battery division that they allow to sell this battery technology to other manufacturers as well. And according to the company, most major EV manufacturer has been talking to them to use their technology. I guess the only one that is more prominently announced is basically Toyota. So Toyota going forward would be using BYD blade battery predominantly for their EV in the future. And today, by today, 2003, 2004, their revenue is still split into two major segments with automotive and related products, close to about 80% of the business, and 20% still in the handset component business. And the handset component business, they have expanded their servicing range as well, not just providing the batteries, but now they are like a complete ODM and OEM for the mobile handset. So they do the components, they do the assembly service. I guess almost similar to like a Foxconn, where they produce the handset for manufacturers, um, for the brand owners. And on the other breakdown, their revenue by location, very, very interestingly, today the PRC market only takes up around 70% of their revenue, which is very, very impressive. Just a few years before, more than 90% is still within China. So they have gone through a huge export uh, era, and you can definitely see, right? Even in our country now, you will be seeing more and more brands from China and more brands from BYD as well coming exporting into other markets, and that will be the big push for the future as well. So just a quick summary on their performance. This company now produce and sell close to this is 4 million vehicles, right? And their revenue is about 777 billion yuan last year. And you can see that about 28% is coming from overseas. And they have also shed off their image of a copycat company. They have come up with design that is quite unique, and you can see that they are much more desirable design language between all their brands. Right? They own the BYD brands, of course, but they own a few different brands as well. Mainly Tenza. I think this one will be coming to Malaysia as well next year, but a few others as well. Of course, when we look through this story, right, it seems that it's the results of hard work and determination and never say die attitude of the founder and the company. But I would say that there are other factors at play as well. A few things that I found was, of course, during this whole period, yes, he was extremely hardworking, and he was extremely relentless and determined to make the business a success. But I would say he also stepped on an industry that has a lot of tailwind in China. First, in the battery line, where they basically took over the production of battery from Japan, who was who is at the time trying to reduce their reliance on battery manufacture due to environmental uh, concern, right? So they were just at the time where there is this growth market that he was able to tap into. And similarly, in the automotive industry, it was built up by tons and tons of subsidy by the Chinese government, both on the central government, central government, and also the state government. Right, there were a lot of subsidy programs and directly subsidy investment into all these EV companies to ensure that the EV space and the EV industry become a success in China. So he was very lucky to tap on into this tailwind. And in fact, in 2019, when there was a sudden cut in subsidy, BYD actually saw a very, very sharp drop in its profitability during that year. So you can argue that a lot of the growth coming from this company is also backed by huge support and subsidy coming from the Chinese government as well. And another interesting aspect of it is that uh, in terms of electric vehicle motor patent, right? So the motor that actually powers the electric vehicle, it was actually under patent for a long time. And so we see that the development was pretty slow. BYD tried to uh, create their own design before other major players, which is why they started at a much earlier stage. But it was only by the year 2021 when the main battery powered motor design patent was expired after 20 years. So that was the time where anyone was free to use that design to create an electric motor, which leads to a huge boom in the EV space, especially in China when they already have the ecosystem, right? So you can see that there are other factors at play that Wang Shanfu and BYD was at the right place at the right time, but they have also done their homework and gained enough experience by the time to take advantage of this tailwind, right? I would say they stay in the game long enough to experience that tailwind, and many people would have already failed before them. That said, that doesn't mean that every single thing that they do is a success. Every single thing that they touch becomes gold. When you search on BYD website today, you will see that they have a real department that design and build entire monorail system, both in they say medium size capacity and also low density monorail design. At first, they actually try to expand in many third tier cities in China, where the city was at a juncture that they are still not big enough to have like a mass rapid transit like MRT, but they need to improve their transport infrastructure. This space predominantly was still uh, controlled by a lot of state-owned companies and also maybe MNC major companies outside. So they are considered one of the few, if not the only, privately fund company that's trying to go into the monorail space. So it's a rather big bet, and so far even though it has been more than 10 years, it hasn't been doing very well. Right, from my research, a lot of the projects in China that they joined into have failed. And you can see that, these are just some of the things that I found online of abandoned BYD monorail station that the whole project was just abandoned. And one of the few markets that they have been very, very successful is in Brazil and in Latin America. And even then, they gained the project in Sao Paulo. It took a 10-year delay and many, many cost overrun to finally complete the project. Whether they're going to make money on this project is yet to be seen, I think. And yeah, so it it shows that not everything that they do turns out to be correct. So explaining that what I shared just now, that they have to be other factors at play to push them towards the successful region and to create a successful business. And you can see in the monorail space, there's definitely a much lesser support coming from the government, coming from easier access of capital for this sector, and the huge amount of investment they have to put in themselves just to create and just to do the project, which leads to many, many failed projects on their part. So, as a company, right, until today, what exactly is the mode of BYD? That got me thinking. What exactly is the success of BYD? Right? If you say that they have grown purely from the benefit of the government and all the subsidy that the government is giving them, that's not entirely true as well, right? Because the government was spreading subsidy for every single player in the world, in China, but yet they evolve and emerge as the largest EV player now in China. So they have some merits on their own. And I think the main key thing for now is their battery technology. They have an advantage that they started out in battery. They know much more on the battery tech, so much so that they are ahead of competition within the battery technology. They are the only EV manufacturer that can produce their own battery as well. So that is a key advantage that they have. I put for now, mainly because battery tech is changing so fast. Right now, if we can spend a little bit time to explain, right? EV battery pack right now is separate into two basic uh, chemistry chem. So the one that BYD produces is what we call LFP battery pack, which is the lithium iron phosphate type of battery pack. And they have the NMC type of battery pack as well, the nickel, magnesium, cobalt type of battery. So the two key difference is that the LFP ones, you can consider them as more of a more reliable and stable state battery. So they are able to work for a longer period. They are safer. They're more reliable, but they're not as power density high. So they don't produce that much power compared to NMC type of battery. So you will see NMC type of battery. So if today you go shopping for EV, especially if you are looking at buying a new Tesla, you have the more powerful long range pack, or you get the basic one. You will see that typically they are made of two different type of battery packs, right? The performance ones will be using the MNC battery packs, but those are much more powerful, but they're also less reliable, so their recharging cycle is much lower, and in general, they are much more less safe as well. So many of the EV explosion that you see, typically that will be coming from the MNC battery packs. Not all, but Yeah, you get the idea, right? So for now, BYD still have this advantage of the battery tech, but because it's moving so fast, and we are already looking at a stage where they're talking about transitioning to solid state battery, right? So if you search solid state battery, this will be batteries pack that uh, are using anode and cathode, solid anode and cathode, meaning that they today when you cut, if you go and cut open your battery, there's still some liquid inside, right? Uh, but the solid state one will be using complete. All three material will be using uh, solid metal. So in theory, at least from what I read, is that this will be a huge leap forward for battery tech. Uh, Capacity wise, range wise, it could easily uh, double or triple. You're talking about cars that can travel thousands of kilometers before they need another charge, and much more powerful, much more stable. So this is the direction battery technology is moving, and I cannot predict. I don't know how it will change, and I wouldn't know whether BYD will still stay on top, right? So that's one of the mode currently that they have. And maybe also economic of scale, right? Being that they are the largest EV player right now, they own a lot of the most expensive component like batteries, the power drive. They could produce car at a much more economical price. Case in fact, when you look at uh, Tesla and BYD in China, and the price difference, you'll be able to see that how BYD has this cost advantage over the other players. And maybe the last mode that we kind of associate as investors ourselves, maybe it's Buffett, right? I would say that the first time I heard about BYD is from Buffett. Uh, that because this is a company that Buffett has invested in, it piqued my interest, and that is also a lead or for many investors who are looking at the EV space. Typically, the first one we would look at is either Tesla or BYD. We will not be looking at many of the other players, mainly because of the endorsement of Buffett. I put here as it might be an illusion, mainly because number one, just because Buffett buy it doesn't mean it will be a good investment for us, right? Because bear in mind that his investment cost and investment price is much different from ours if you are investing in it today. And plus, although it seems that he invested a lot for a 10% stake at 300 million, it seems like a lot, but to Buffett, to Berkshire Hathaway, it's a very small amount, right? It might not even, today, it is not even like a 1% of the portfolio. So when we're looking at it, if we say, oh, we buy it because Buffett buy it, but to Buffett, even if today BYD go on bankrupt, it would not put a dent at all in the grand scheme of things for Berkshire Hathaway. So I think it's more or less illusion, and we should disregard that when we are making investment decision for this company. On a more objective playing field, right? When I look at if we do like a SWOT analysis for the company, I would see that they do have some key strength above other companies. And the main one is definitely their management, right? Especially their founder, Wang Chuanfu. His, I think his relentlessness as an entrepreneur, and maybe from his background, that he has a very aggressive growth mentality, and it could be an asset for the company if done correctly, right? So far, we can see that he has not been too uh, risk taking in terms of over leveraging the company just to achieve the growth. But so far, most of the bet that he made has created multiple fold return for investors. So that's a good thing. And they also have economy of scale from such a small company with just 2 million renminbi investment. It has grown to the size that it is today with close to a million employee, right? BYD today has close to a million employee worldwide. I think definitely they have done something right. And a lot of their businesses has some synergy between each other, especially their from their mobile business to the battery packs to the automotive side, and his public transport side of the business. And now they are also going into energy storage, right? So for data center, um, for solar farms, you will need to store the energy into battery as well. They have industrial size battery that they sell for all this power plant and also data centers as well. So it has some link between each business unit, and I think that is at least good, right? Not like a conglomerate where everything is separated and there's no true uh, synergy between different unit business unit. And of course, for now, I mentioned before, their battery technology advantage. Right? But they also have quite a number of weaknesses. I think they're not a perfect company, and I guess it also links to most of the EV companies right now that many of them, including Tesla, is dependent on subsidy. Right, the growth has been there because a lot of push by government to move towards this direction. That's one, and we can't really see how the market is truly there. Right? So we don't really know the true demand for this product if all the subsidy is taken away. So this is something that worries me, and this is something that I still cannot fully confidently say that this is a company that I want to invest in. A key part is because of this issue that I can't see the real demand for the product. But having said that, I would say that, among all the EV players, even when we add in Tesla together, I would say that BYD might be the one that stands the highest chance if all the subsidies is taken away because they have reached the economic of scale and they have a positioning where they are selling mass market products that they could stand a chance to be competitive uh, in an environment where there's no subsidy, right? Compared to a lot of the other Chinese company where a Chinese EV company that only focus on say the high end market, or even Tesla, right? So this is something that I'm still thinking about. Next weakness is of course key man risk also. I talk about the importance of Wan Fu. That there will be a key man risk, but from a lot of all this very unique um, business from amazing founders, I would say that this risk would be uh, across the board for everyone as well. Okay, and also we don't know if they are going to try to enter into other markets that could turn out to be like the real market for them as well. So that's something to think about. Next for threat is of course competition. If today I ask you as a product, as a brand, as a car, what exactly is the difference between BYD and another brand? I would say that I couldn't come up with an answer. If you can come up with an answer, maybe you can put on the chat below. I haven't gone EV shopping seriously, right? But if you have seen all the EV in the market, or you own one now, I hope you share your opinion with us. Uh, but I'm still unable to see what exactly makes BYD stands out as an automotive brand compared to the rest of other EV brands. And of course, the current uncertain situation of the tariff, and it could lead to the saturation of the market, especially in China, and how the new gen of battery tech would evolve and who will be the main key players coming out in the next cycle, yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. So very, very exciting time for this company, I feel. When we look at the financials, when I look at the financials, you can check it out either through our website, iFast portal, uh, or if you have access to other database, you can have a look. Their growth has been growing extremely crazy, right? So if I can go back to, I think I put a snapshot just now. So this is just from Google Finance. So you can see that by in 2020 all the way until today, they have more or less four times, more than four times, five times their revenue. One, two, three, four, five. So every year they add like one more part of the revenue. So it's very very impressive for such a large company. For such a large company, and when I look at their last quarter results, the first quarter of 2025, they are growing their revenue again, and they double their net income. So they're still growing extremely, extremely fast. I don't know where the growth is coming from, but they're still growing extremely, extremely fast. Okay. But the issue is their margin is not so great, right? For a company that is competing in a value for money proposition, uh, they have a 5% net income right now. Their gross margin is less than 20% for the product. So this is something that I don't particularly like, but it's just the nature of this business. I feel that they would not be able to significantly increase their margin. Mainly, again, coming back to what I asked you guys just now, there's still not much brand differentiation, meaning that the brand doesn't have any pricing power. Today, if BID is priced higher than all the other EVs, then that there goes their appeal, I feel. Some of the good things is they don't really have a lot of debt. They are in net cash actually. But they do have very, very high account payables. So they actually finance their business through their suppliers. They drag on their suppliers for quite some time and build up quite a high accounts payable. And the business is also a very, very high capex business. So they have been expanding and building more factories around the world just for their global expansion. And I think that will continue, especially in the era of tariff is the new norm. Every major market that they go into, most likely they would want to build a plant there as well. Um, they have, I think, recently partnered with a player in Thailand. So I think Southeast Asia, most likely they're going to manufacture in Thailand. Uh, and they have a few plants in Europe as well. Okay. And something that I don't particularly like is that because it's such a high capex business, they're still raising money. So at today, just in March, they raised another $5 billion from equity. So reason why they are at such a low debt is they don't mind raising more capital using equity. And even so, until today, the two founders still own around 50% of the company. So they're still very, very much invested in the company. Okay. When we look at valuation, just a quick one. When this is data from iFast Global Market, you can see that the P, they would be considered one of the higher ones. I wouldn't look at Li Auto PE mainly because their earnings is quite volatile at the moment. They're still much, much smaller in size, so their earnings is a bit more volatile. But compared to more established player, um, like Great Wall, Geely especially, um, BYD is trading at a much higher valuation. So something for you guys to consider. More prominent player, uh, but at a much higher PE ratio. Less prominent player, getting them at less than 10 PE seems like a pretty good deal. In fact, I would say that Geely it has a pretty attractive proposition at the moment. This one, right? Geely, if you don't know, is the main shareholder of Proton right now, and also Volvo. Okay, so that's actually the uh complete story that I have so far over the past 2 weeks that I have been studying up on this company. Uh, Let me just see if I miss out on any of the major information. Right. So today, BYD now export more than 100 countries, right? To more than 100 countries. And you can see just now that 70% of their sales is still coming from China and 28% coming from overseas. I was looking to see if I can find a company that I can compare when it reach a matured stage, how much of the sales could be coming from domestic market, how much of the sales could be coming from overseas market. And I look at Toyota. When I look at Toyota, I found that actually until today, Toyota being so widely spread in the whole world, right? Still 46% of their sales coming from Japan. Right, they still get about close to about half of their sales coming from Japan. 41% coming from North America, aka the US lah, right? And then 13% from Europe and only 19 about no, this cannot be right. About sorry, not 41% coming from North America, but I think 20 plus percent coming from North America, 13 from Euro, and then 19 from Asia Pac. I feel that because China is the largest automotive market in the world, uh, even when they reach matured state, I think BYD will still have the majority of the business coming from China. So around a range like 60% or 50% of the sales coming from China, 50 to 60% coming from China. I think that's quite still pretty reasonable. Meaning that from now, about 30% is coming from overseas. They might not be expanding so much more, especially one of the biggest overseas market. I think BYD will have a very hard time in growing in, which is the US. Just mainly from the huge tension now with US and China, the huge the suspicious between the two countries. It's just very hard for them to have a huge presence in the US, I feel, at least for now. But of course, Toyota went through the same thing, right? During the 90s, Japanese product was also highly detested in the US, but they gone past it, and there was now Toyota is almost like a domestic brand because they employ so many people in the US that is almost made in US for the US market. So it could reach a stage where BID is also commonplace in the US as well, but I think it will not happen so fast. Maybe at least in the next decade. So that's something that I was thinking about. And let me see what else. Yeah, that's some of the things that I wanted to highlight to you guys. Okay, if you have any question for me, feel free to pull up the chat box and let me know, especially what are your views on BYD, what are views on other EV players. How do you compare BYD with Tesla? Let me know. We can have a conversation about it. But uh, my spin-off segment as usual. Just want to introduce guys to an amazing book that I have read, which is same as ever by Morgan Housel, my ex-colleague in the Motley Fool, right? He is definitely still one of the best financial writer of our time. Always a pleasure to read his things. He has such a way of writing about financial stuff in an entertaining and also very relatable manner. So same as ever is his second book, um, and he talked a lot about what doesn't really change in an ever-changing world, right? So instead of always when we're looking at investment, we always look at what could be the next big thing, what could be the next disruptive technology or disruptive company that we should invest in. But he reminded us, and myself as well, that we should actually flip the question. When we're investing, we should actually look for what are the things that never really change? What are the consumer sentiment and consumer requirement that never really change? And how we can think of companies that is able to fulfill this need regardless of how the industry could change. So it got me thinking, very, very interesting book, and also the psychology and the concept of getting rich and staying rich requires very, very different skill set, and which is why there are many people in the world which is very good at getting rich, but not very good at staying rich, and vice versa. And why is that the case? And I love it when he simplify a lot of financial information and also financial concept into very, very simple terms. And the fact that in the finance industry, especially, we still try to overcomplicate things a lot, right? We make very, very simple things with very fancy terms just to sound a little bit more intelligent. And we overcomplicate when it comes to money. And in fact, money can be very simple, right? Can be very simple. You just save more than you spend and you do it consistently and you make sure that you invest in things that is not too risky, that you don't blow it all away, right? Sounds simple and yet very, very hard to do. And that has actually been now my life mission to help people together to go through this journey together because I gone through this journey for the past close to 2 decades. And I realized that yes, it's doable to do it by yourself, but it's a very, very lonely process. And I think everybody would do it better if we just have someone on our side that has experienced this before, has gone through this before, and we can go through this journey together. And it makes life so much more exciting and much more meaningful. So, that's what I've been trying to do through iFast Global Market. And if you like to speak with me to see how I can be of help to you to optimize your portfolio, to look through your finances, or just to open a brokerage account for you, feel free to reach out to me at learnwithstanley.com or scan the QR code and I'll reach out to you very, very soon. All right. Thank you very much for your time. And as usual, before I go, uh, I like to end this with a quote, which is knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad, right? Just a quirky little quote that I found. And in today's age where we are always looking and bombarded by new information to gain our knowledge, I think it's equally important for us to know how to turn that knowledge into something useful and turning that knowledge into wisdom. Thank you so much for all your time tonight. And I hope you have enjoyed this webinar. Till we meet again, my name is Stanley. Invest safely, everyone.